been reminded of that many times. But to be fair, emotion was still kind of as far west as they were when I was there. Kind of got not big. Copyright. There's so much of that. It really was like that. But I think at that time, probably the reason why if any it's open to people who want to I think it's open to fantastic. And to be fair, what small amounts of music I did really see on X-Party. Next year.
Is it my next year? Yeah. I must try and go.
This is kind of a warm-up match. Down 3 days away. Down the hills, northwest. All kind of local, like West I think that's better than it was 5 years ago. But there's loads. I mean, the other thing is, depending on how you demos. There is it's really easy to get to some of these what I'd like to do one of each.
Yeah, I'm just on the screen at the moment.
I think maybe the volume of it. Yeah, what's that?
Yeah, because there's a lot of that.
I know that the following and I'm probably not going to yeah, but it was great. It kind of always been traditional. It's really it's great to still be able to do what I can, but just supply it kind of the old three-voice tickets. It's great. Four-piece band, depending on what you think is appropriate. Jason plays, Barry Lee, video, and then it's like 3 off the stage. Oh, right, thank you. You have to pay. No, never. Oh, yeah.
No, I don't actually, to be brutally honest. Oh, you mean like you are?
Why don't we budge down? All right. Are you doing the Bruce and Four sides bit out there?
So guys, this will be the ocean one. So just to let you know, there's live streaming to the TV, which is just literally over the way, and it'll be on YouTube live streaming as well. So I appreciate this room is where it is. So there's a lot of people in here, get a bit warm. So Mr. Butler's going to get it even hotter, because, you know.
Am I?
Yeah, so I'll pass you over to Simon now, to introduce the panel, and he's going to run this one.
Thank you very much and good night. Oh, fucking hell, there's Mr. Southworth.
Hello, Simon.
Good to see you. Right, this forum was meant to be a lot larger, but due to old age, infirmment, and a lot of other problems, you've got us. Now, this young man, we have just clarified something. We barely know each other, even though we worked at the same company.
Probably 11, 12 months.
Yeah, I can't. If anyone can tell me what year I was sacked, finally, that would help clarify matters. It was just after Dennis, which was I think '93.
Right.
But that was my second stint there, and I always like to think that I'd been working with Steve from the day I started till the day I left, but it just wasn't true.
No.
Get your microphone, boy.
Oh, guys, no.
Turn it on.
Switch.
Hello.
Oh, okay.
Technical issues. Yeah, so I worked with.
Do we need microphones in here? Not really.
No. Yeah, so Simon had left by the time I joined. I think you'd already started on RoboCop, is that right?
Yep.
And I kind of picked up the mantle. I was like, yeah, my first job in the industry. First job in the industry, and wide-eyed and like kind of, young lad in Manchester. So the hangovers were epic. They really were. But yeah, Simon rejoined later on, and it was brilliant to see you back. I love working with you. Yeah, we had such a laugh. It was nice.
A minority.
Best years of my life, really, development life. I'm still in the industry now. Got 30. I think I've 36 years now. I'm a veteran, I think now.
Yeah, thank you. That is my preferred word. I can't tolerate when people say industry legend. I think it's like a fucking bollocks, you know. It's not like we've all suddenly found unicorns down the bottom of the garden or anything like that. We've just hung around long enough for people to hopefully appreciate what we did almost 4 decades ago. But can I just jump straight in here and say, right from the get-go, I would prefer this get-together to not be the traditional expected get-together. How did you start at Ocean? What was it like working at Ocean? I was speaking with my son-in-law this morning, and I was telling him about, we were sharing a memory of one of my first events, and somebody asked that question. It was one of Chris Wilkins' events, and I think it was Andy Spencer who said, what was it like working at Ocean? And when I didn't tell him that it was like working at Hogwarts.
It was in a way.
Yeah, but it was like the anti-Hogwarts.
Yeah, but who was Snape?
Yeah, the thing is, when I said that to that room, and you were there as well, Steve. It was at Bescott Stadium.
Yeah, that's right.
And when I said it was just a job, the light went out in all these old men's eyes. The little boy inside shriveled up and died. Because that's all it was at that time. And it's only after, it's 40 years this year for me. If Paul Hughes had been here today, sadly he's not. Paul is, I think, 1 year ahead of me. I think Colin Porch would have been a couple of years more. But it's only with the passing of time that you realise that it is something special. Like we know it's something special to you guys because you keep turning up at these events and you keep filling the internet with all your comments. But to us, it was just a job. But like I say, with the passing of time, you realise what a wonderful thing it is. I'm looking now at the Untouchables. I was very hand on heart, and I'm not sort of trying to be unnecessarily humble. I was very workmanlike at Ocean. This guy shone. I mean, he really did, and he was one of these guys who put the time and the extra effort into learning his machine. I just couldn't give a shit. I just wanted to get the job done, get on to the next one, and collect my pay packet. That's how it was, and it's only now that I actually give a fuck about what I develop. But I mean, Steve, what do you think about where you are now? How important was Ocean to where you are now?
I mean, the thing that I've noticed, like during sort of my career, that you get like kind of highlight projects that you absolutely are massively proud of. Robocop was my first project, so obviously we've got a special love for that one, even though the terrible spelling mistake on the landing screen, a valuable, I am, apparently.
Oh.
We were a valuable, apparently, rather than available, so I played Gary for that. Gary Brace breathing over my neck with a printed out blurb, and he was like, you've got to put this on, and it was like the 11th hour, and you're ruining the loading screen. Oh well, never mind. So, but yeah, I mean, Ocean, my first job in the industry, my first job away from home, you know, Manchester, I've loved Manchester, the city, it's amazing. It was just brilliant for me. I absolutely loved it, every single minute of it, and really relished going into work. The machine does sort of leave you after a few decades of doing this thing, I must admit. But yeah, I wouldn't be doing anything else really. It was something that I literally, when I was 2 or 3 years old and I first started seeing, you know, arcade games when I was about 7, 8, 9 years old, I was like, that's what I want to do, and that was it. And you know, I was lucky enough to get that first job, and yeah, it was an incredible experience really. Yeah, loved it, loved every single minute of it. I really love to hear the tunes getting composed as well, because my desk used to be right next to John Dunn's, and I heard all of these like quite famous pieces of music really in our scene, being sort of composed, and used to grate at times, I must admit. Yeah. But yeah, it was nice. Such a brilliant experience.
Well, it didn't grate half as much as working in the room next to Martin Galway. But that was just because it was Martin Galway and not the music that was great.
I'll give you a perception of that as we progress.
Yeah. So, you know, your tenure at Ocean, you said you were there, what, a year? 12, 18 months? Yeah? How did you, was it Paul that got you in there?
So my kind of entrance and exit was a little bit controversial compared to the gentleman sat to the left and right of me. I'm more of a butterfly who kind of flew in for 12 months and flew out again. Although I did some freelance stuff afterwards. And the original approach, I'll try and give you the PG version of getting into Ocean. Myself and Paul Hughes were good mates. We kind of lived close to each other in the Wigan area, in the northwest. And Paul used to work weekends in a really, really good independent computer shop called Blue Chip Computers in Wigan. And that was the place that I used to go and get my Commodore 64 games. I was frustratedly trying to write music on the C64 from when I very first got my first C64, which would have been 80, very early on, 81, 82 would it have been when it kind of first came out. But I mean, I bought it as a games machine. It was literally an outlet. I was playing in bands, and I was kind of, that horrible musical drug was being fulfilled by playing in bands. And then I got to know Paulie, and Paulie said, buy this, it's called Electrosound. And I bought it, and it literally just unlocked how you write proper music. Although it's not ideal from its limitations, and from its greed on raster time and other things, it's not really a viable piece of software to then produce a SID that will go into, with a run routine that will go into again, because it just eats too much processor time. So we made this, he kind of liked some of the tunes I've written, and he was, as both these guys will no doubt confirm, he's a sideways programmer, Paulie. He just got this way of just being able to make things happen that other people can't necessarily make happen, especially when it came to kind of the anti-piracy, the anti-cracking stuff. He got very clever in terms of a lot of the stuff he did. So Paulie was loosely related to Dave Collier, and Paulie went for a tour around Ocean one evening and said some things to Dave Collier that made Dave Collier say some things to Guy Boise, who immediately said, "Do you want a job?" And so Paulie was in the door. And previously we'd both been freelancing for software creations, which was just literally down Oxford Road, maybe about a 5-minute walk away. So Paulie properly introduced me to Richard Kay at Software Creations, and I kind of became their music guy. So we're both walking around with demo discs, with some clever Paulie coding and some Clarke music. And then within Ocean, he arrived at the point where Double Take was finished, but didn't have any music. Mr. Galway is snowed under with other jobs. And Paulie said to them, "I've got something." And played them a particular piece of music. And they kind of went, "Yeah, we'll have that." Unbeknownst to them, I'd already offered it to Software Creations for a game called Mission of Mercy. So Mission of Mercy was still very early in development, and Double Take was finished, and out goes Double Take released. And I'm in Wigan one Saturday morning in Woolworths, looking at all the bank of 12-inch screens at the back, and there it is, Double Take is out, music by Paul Hughes. And I go like, what? So you can imagine my emotions. So I stewed on it for a day or two, and I thought the only way to tackle this is actually just take my source discs, go to Ocean, and kind of go WTF. Yeah, you didn't ask for permission, you put this on, you credit it to someone. And Colin Stokes, who I think was the chief operating officer at the time.
Among other things.
Among other things, yeah. So the first tactics were to try and bully this guy a bit. I mean, at the time I was 27, 28. Well, we're Ocean, and then he kind of, his second stance was, so if I pay you the 1,200 quid that you've lost from Software Creations, I'm going to give you a job. And I went, just let me, yeah. And you would. So I'm probably unique in terms of, I ended up working in the fishbowl with Martin Galway, in the same room every day, day in, day out. And it's a very kind of mixed bag emotionally for me. And it's when Martin was writing the music for Parallax, which I know is a huge favourite for a lot of people. Yeah. But if you are in a room listening to 150 times in an 8-hour day, you kind of have a different perspective on it anyway. Even when it's a finished piece of music. Nobody actually thought to use headphones. So we just had a Yamaha keyboard halfway across the room, and we sat back to each other at opposite ends of the room. and we worked. I met with Martin last year, in April last year, for coffee, and we used up the parking limit to Costas to actually get through 5 hours of back in the day, what's on since and where are you now kind of chat. And we giggled about some stuff, without a doubt, but I also remember the frustrations as well. I think the difficulties personally between the two of us probably had something to do with the fact that I was 28, he was 19. I was kind of established in playing and singing in bands every weekend, and so the title kind of musician was on you. And Martin certainly had the label programmer, no question, very, very good programmer. But maybe he felt like, because even with his kind of famous uncle, I think he always kind of saw me as a little bit of a threat from that kind of gigging musician point of view. So yeah, but Ocean, without a doubt, it was the Wild West, it was interesting, and it was a year in my life that I'll probably never forget. And in terms of development to where I am now, yes, absolutely. It had a big contribution to kind of still being in the remix scene now and being really active with taking synths from the whole of HVSC and turning them into proper tunes. Which I don't mean that in a derogatory way, I just mean that you kind of get to put anything from a 4-piece band sound to a whole orchestra on a piece of 3-voice synth music. So that's really exciting for me as well.
Well, I probably should tell you my origin story with Ocean as well, because that kind of not as exciting as yours, but so I don't know whether any of you guys remember an old sort of show that was at Earl's Court called CTS many years ago. I'd already been doing loads of different sort of loading screens for lots of demos at the time, sort of thing. And I'd amassed a little bit of work, and I just literally walked straight up to Gary Bracey, didn't know who he was at all. I just saw the Ocean sticker and I said, have you got any jobs going? And he was like, let's have a look at your work then. And the first one I loaded up, I'd actually done a RoboCop picture, and like I think they'd only announced it a couple of weeks before. Obviously I was a huge fan of the movie at the time, and it was just like I used to sort of do images of stuff that was really cool at the time, sort of thing. And RoboCop's a brilliant movie, so brilliant, I'm going to do a bitmap of that, and loaded it up. And he said, how did you know we were doing RoboCop? And my voice actually broke. Because you make all the cool games. And a really pathetic answer, and he laughed. Classic Gary Bracey laugh. He's like, no, it's fine, it's all good. He says, yeah, he says, call us up next week, and yeah, I just got the job. And it was a weird thing, because that same week, because my background is, like, I come from a fine art background as well. And I was at art college at the time, wanted to be like a portrait painter, and I used to do abstract art and all those things, but this was my kind of like secret love was pixels. I absolutely adored them. All of my mates, I'd never used to mention my pixel work to anybody at art college, because it would have been poo-pooed, all that, no, that's not, kind of way it is a little bit still today. Digital art isn't as respected as much as sort of real art, I don't think. By the snobs, I call them the art snobs. So I kind of like kept it under my hat, and I've got a place. I was going to go be at Liverpool Polytechnic of all places, actually, Simon. So actually got my place there, and I ended up having to come to this really difficult decision in like the space of a couple of days. Do I ditch going for my BA, or do I go for the job at Ocean? Fucking job at the time.
Like me then.
Yeah, I literally jumped at it. I was like, oh my god. And Mum and Dad were like, what are you doing? What are you doing? I was like, look, I've got a job. I'm not going to be a what they used to call a sponging student or whatever. I'm going to actually be earning some money, sort of thing. And like my dad was really happy. He got it. Like my dad, I miss him dearly for it. But my dad like massively encouraged me, and didn't understand a word of what I said. Like the generation above, it's normally like what screen. He used to call everything screens, or he used to call levels, what was his terminology? Anyway, it was really like kind of old person terminology for stuff, and I was like, yeah, Dad, it's a screen, it's a page, yeah, whatever. But he was like really happy, and my mum like, kind of went a little bit mental, and then like, right, so I'm moving to Manchester, and they were like, whoa, okay. So went up there, and the rest is history, really. Kind of just went up there and just worked it. I remember my first day, I was sitting next to, I can't remember his name now, it's a bit worrying.
John Megan?
No, it wasn't John Megan. Alan Short, bless him. Lovely guy, no longer with us, sadly. He was brilliant. And it was just, I thought I had that, like, people that were in game development, they have this like kind of aura about them, but that soon disappeared. Like after a couple of days, especially working next to Alan Short, effing and jeffing like every 30 seconds about stuff. And he was a lovely guy, bless him. Sort of. I did some bits and pieces, and then worked on the levels, and then it was kind of released very, very quickly. But it was a real trial by fire. I had to learn so much very, very quickly, and everyone was lovely. Everyone was lovely, you know, really supportive. I don't know whether it was because I was like kind of probably one of the youngest there. I think I was 17 when I started. Brilliant place, lovely people, and I just find it surreal that you guys are kind of still into it and following the scene. Yeah, it's wonderful to see. It really is very, very cool. That's kind of me.
I'm going to ask Mr. Butler a question, and I've already asked my colleague here to my left a question. So one of the things that struck me about kind of starting in the games industry was it felt very transient. It didn't feel like it was long term. And certainly writing the music I wrote at the time, I thought, 6 months it'll be in the battle bin, and then 12 months it'll be in the real bin, and that will be that. So I never really foresaw the possibility of getting to where we are now, and it does, I'll concur, it amazes me that the following is still there and the love for it is still there.
Yeah, it's lovely.
I agree wholeheartedly. The day that I killed everybody's childhood dreams, I pretty much said the same, because it was just a 9 to 5, and it served a purpose, and it paid the bills and it paid the mortgage. I was an oddity in many ways at Ocean. I was married, I had kids, and so I had priorities, and nobody, in fact I defy anyone, there's no way to prove it, but nobody knew we were building something that would last 4 decades.
No, Robo himself has said that.
Nobody knew that. It could have ended tomorrow. It could have ended that day. If Gary had walked in and said, sorry guys, it's all over, we would have gone, okay, we had a nice run, thanks very much. And we would have all gone back to whatever it was we were going to do. I mean, regardless of the fact that Steve says he'd always dreamt of being in games, he did want to be an artist. And he is, no matter what he says, that Jesus Christ, I've just seen some of my Miami Vice work, get it off the screen. It could have ended in a heartbeat, and we wouldn't have batted an eyelid. It was so ephemeral. And I was thinking about this the other night, because Chris had contacted me and said, oh, this person's dropped out, and this person's dropped out, and it might just be you, blah, blah, blah. And I was thinking, well, the story of Ocean that gets told is pretty much the story that's been told today of how people got in. I'm not telling mine because the world is dog knows how I got into the industry. But the story of Ocean's end isn't something that gets told very often, and it's an absolute fucking shit show. It's not something to laugh about at all. Ocean was a fucking horror show to work for in its twilight years. It was absolutely fucking awful. Jolly had moved on, Steve had moved on to the States. Paul had been gone, as he said, in butterfly land. I was back for my second tenure, and when Ocean moved from where it was truly Ocean, which was Central Street, in the dungeons, as we called it. That was Ocean. They were the glory days. That was when magic was happening. It wasn't Hogwarts. There weren't flying monkeys and rainbow unicorns every fucking day. In fact, every day at Ocean was an absolute fucking nightmare for me, because I was grown up and I was working with children, and it was like working with a bunch of fucking monkeys. And as people who know me, Steve is probably one of the very few people who I don't think we ever really crossed swords. Most people just got on my tits something wicked, and at least everybody in there got the sharp edge of my tongue at some point, including Gary Brewson.
Really?
Oh yeah, and Colin Stokes. I've had Colin Stokes up the wallways from Rose at Christmas party, but which is not something to be proud of, but they were the happy days, believe it or not. They were the amazing days, the days when we were actually churning out games that went onto the shelves. By the time we went to Salford Keys, we were churning out garbage. And Ocean was dead in the water, but just hadn't smelt it yet. It fucking stank. They brought in a bunch of Johnny-come-latelys from Christ knows where. Everybody else, Steve on the States, Joe Brownwood, John Dunn, Don, Mick West, Mike Lamb, everybody with any sense that jumped ship. Because I had a family, I made tentative, investigations. Oh, maybe I can go and work here. And the wife said, oh yeah, that's great. No, I don't want to go and live in Las Vegas. So that was that gone. So Ocean in Salford Keys was horrible because nobody knew what was going on. Gary was being sent from pillar to post all around the world, coming in looking bedraggled, asking what day of the fucking week it was, because he'd moved across so many time zones in the last 4 days. John and David didn't give a shit upstairs. I mean, they never gave a shit from day one. The thing about Ocean was, it was incredibly successful, but it was successful because it was in the right place at the right time. It was just another business for David and John. They failed at everything else. Selling cars, selling clothes, selling records, running a roller disco in New York. They'd gone bankrupt multiple times. And this one worked. But it didn't work because they loved games. It didn't work because they were clever. It worked because they shouted the loudest. And they were fortunate enough to, not by any skill of theirs, none of us were ever interviewed by David or John. We were all interviewed by Gary. So Gary Grayson, an awful lot of people, Gary included, thinks, oh, Simon Butler fucking hates me. And I don't. I actually think Gary Grayson is and always will be Ocean Software. He was the man. He really is. David and John, they were the money guys. Gary Brayson put that company on the fucking map, and he deserves to be hailed as a hero. And he wasn't. At the end of Ocean Software, David and John shat on him from a great height. Knock at the door on their little room, and Gary goes in. And I'm probably speaking out of turn now, but I don't give a fuck. It's 40 years ago. What they're going to do? David's dead and John's just a gobshite. He's a powerful semi-gangster gobshite, but he's still a gobshite. The thing is, Gary goes in and says, about that talk we had a while ago. What talk was that? Well, you kind of mentioned that there'd be a place on the board for you. It's on the board for Gary David? I don't remember that, do you? No, John, I don't remember that. And the pair of them lied through their fucking teeth to him and sent him out of their room with a fucking tail between his legs. And Gary just basically said, oh, that's the way you're going to play it now, is it? Fine. So that was it. Gary was off. They shat on Paul Finnegan. Why do you think his fucking company was called Rage? Because they refused to take the last game they were contracted to take. And he lost his shirt on Black Monday. Some special effects became Rage software. Ocean Software was not Hogwarts. It certainly wasn't. It certainly wasn't. It was a great place to build your career, and we had some wonderful, wonderful times. But those times were made by us, the people on the ground floor, the people in development. Gary Brayson, Ryan Starr, they were the people that made Ocean Software, not David and Joe. David and Joe looked after themselves, didn't give a flying fuck. They didn't even know our names in the basement. They didn't know who was making them rich. And okay, a lot of us did very, very well financially. But as I said, towards the end in Salford Keys, when they had this team called Vitruvian, and they were trying to make Ocean Software the hacienda of software development, it all fell apart. It all fell apart, and rightly so. But the glory days, the days that gave you guys the love of Ocean Software, they were all in Central Street in Manchester. And they're the days that you should focus on. But you also need to know, the sort of the dark underbelly of Ocean Software, because it wasn't a wonderful place at times. But without it, I wouldn't be here. But as I say, I base my career on the shoulders of Gary Brayson. I stand on the shoulders of giants.
And like the uncensored ones.
So, anyone have any jokes?
So, I mean, any point, should we throw this open? Just
Yeah.
So speak your mind, folks.
Good question. I've lived in Manchester all my life, born there, and I live in Salford. It was a shithole back then, it's gone a bit posh now. What's your opinion of Salford and Manchester? I know you was in Salford, but what's your opinion of Manchester?
Manchester.
Because I was going to pass the twice a week.
Manchester's one of the coldest, wettest places in the world. Yeah. And I live in Liverpool, a mile away from the Iron Sea. But yeah, I mean, I love Manchester, I really do. I think it was my love of Manchester was beaten into me by Alan Shaw's Ocean. I think he was my coder for many years, and so he just used to pull me on a daily basis. But all this Manchester-Liverpool rivalry, a load of bollocks. But Salford, when we moved there, I just found it faceless and soulless. Manchester city centre's got incredible history and character, and I think I'm a better person, or I'm the best person for knowing Manchester.
Did you get your radio back?
No.
No, okay.
I actually lived in Salford for a bit, believe it or not. Yeah. Do you know House of Jack built pub?
Where's that now? Just remind me of it.
It's on the mine.
You lived in the pub?
No, I didn't. No, it was a dangerous pub. No, it was a lot. I remember our dad coming up to visit us, and we went in there, and it was like the Wild West, like literally the jukebox. Very quiet. It's one of them things. But no, it was ace. I loved the place. It was a little bit like at times walking home. You feel like one of those characters in a Hollywood movie where you're walking really slowly and there's explosions going off behind you and like tyres and stuff bouncing. And yeah, I never had any trouble while I was there, and I loved it. I thought it was really cool. I'm from a really rough part of Birmingham, so I kind of thought, yeah, this feels like home to me. Yeah, I loved it. Really good place.
I've never lived in close enough proximity to Manchester or Salford to give you an educated accent, so I'll take the fifth on that one. So, yeah, you're welcome. Anybody else? Shout out.
If back then you'd have known that in 40 years' time you'd be talking about these games, is there anything that you would you have spent more time, would you have changed your opinion of how you would like to work? Or, is there anything you look back on now and go, you know what, I probably wouldn't have gone to the pub that day, I would have done that screen a bit better?
I think for me, from a music point of view, and I'll demand it quickly, I kind of rode the tech wave, being in bands, playing keyboards, the next best synth, but it was kind of gigging with bands. So after I kind of done my flown in 1986 and into Ocean and flown out at the end of 87, did a little bit more freelance work for software creations down the road from HK. I kind of transitioned 100% into being in bands. And so I followed the tech wave. I was still kind of current with kind of moving on to Amigas and STs and then PC development, and I'm still now running a decent PC with a decent DAW on it and producing completely up-to-date music now. When I stayed in the industry, I talked with Paul Hughes a lot about this, and he did stay absolutely within the industry and went to Traveller's Tales and has been responsible for kind of winning BAFTAs for the Lego games, and he's been a guy that's kind of had his finger really on the pulse, it feels like, through the decades. But for me it was kind of an in, and then it was an out, and then follow it musically, and then got back into it with the remixes around about 2010, and I've been really kind of active in the remixing since then. So that's kind of me. Simon?
We were never really given enough time. And that was a bone of contention. But, on the journey in, I was talking about things like games from Houston. Now, because I'm only Somali, because that was family run, I don't think they were as commercially minded as Ocean. I know that with Ocean, when a title was in development, they had a release window. They'd been to Smith's, they'd been to the other shops. They had arranged slots for when those games would be finished, would be delivered, and would be on the shelves by mid-November, mid-June. And we had to work within those timescales. And I'm just assuming that with the likes of Houston, you look at Uridium and you think, would it be great to work on something that, that people genuinely cannot find any fault with. I mean, I look at my 8-bit CV and Jesus Christ, I'm pulling what few words I've got left out trying to find anything even remotely acceptable. And it's usually stuff that I designed that other people worked on. But Ocean was just a machine. But that was, I didn't want to sound, I did want to sound negative because the last years of Ocean were incredibly negative. It was a very bleak place. But the early days, we knew what we were getting into. When you went in, it was a simple case of, if you wanted to work on original material, Ocean wasn't the place for you. You were going to be working on arcade conversions and movie releases.
Do you think the crunch changed as time went forward?
No.
That kind of pre-release crunch?
No, it was just, I worked on so many things. See, Gary, God bless his cotton socks, actually got to the point where he was like, you're in my fucking room again. What do you want now? I said, he said, let me guess, it's another bonus. And I said, well, actually, yes it is. Because I was bouncing from one project to the next, helping people out with sprites, doing a bit of design work, doing some bitmaps. And so it got to the point where Gary was sick of the sight of me. What for many reasons, but he was sick of the sight of having to get the company checkbook out and sign another bonus check for me. But we weren't given that time. We weren't given any latitude to sit back and go, what could we do with this? And it's why we fell into all these terrible tropes, the multi-level games. Oh, let's have a sliding puzzle section and a car bit. We couldn't do a Uridium. We couldn't do a Paradroid. Christ knows we wanted to. It was an Amiga game, so I can talk about it. It's not a specky game. I came up with an idea, and I went to Gary and I said, look, I want to do an isometric game, as fucking painful as they are. They're an absolute nightmare to work on. for many reasons. And Gary said, oh, I like that, I like the sound of that. And it was set in a haunted house, and it was nothing amazing, but I wanted to make it bigger than Night Law, and for it to actually have some depth. Oh, we've got a license we can tie onto that. And along came Universal Monsters, which dragged on for 2 years and ended up dying a horrible death. You know, that's Ocean for you. Oh, let's stick a license on it, which basically meant let's suck all creativity out of it. Because the moment they did that, tiny sprites went out the question, having charm and character. Universal Studios got involved, and all the sprites had to look like their creations. So it had to be the creature from the Black Lagoon, it had to be Frankenstein, it had to be Dracula, so the characters had to be big. So the hero had to be big. So in order for the backgrounds to look correct with the characters, the backgrounds had to be big, but you only had so many tiles, so it ate up tiles at a fucking phenomenal rate. And the programmer was a first timer, so he was shitting bricks every day. But this was Ocean. Just keep throwing money at it, just keep going, just keep going. Yeah, that was the only time we were given any long development time. But me and Martin McDonald, one of the other artists, we both knew it was fucking dead. We both knew the coder just couldn't fucking hack it. But, I don't know, Ocean wasn't the kind of place for creativity, really. It was a factory for productivity. You were given products and an arcade machine or a movie to convert and get it out by this date. That was it. That was Ocean. We weren't Gremlin, we weren't Core, we weren't Houston. We weren't anywhere where you could be truly creative. You could try and be creative with the few elements they gave you. RoboCop, Batman, you know, but when you've got movie studios and you have the main character down, can't have blood in the game, can't do this, can't do that. I mean, I worked on Dennis, which was an absolute shit show from start to finish. But, Walter Matthau's got to okay his sprite. I said, fine, can I have some, it would be nice if I had some photo. See, this is the days before the internet. Have you got some reference, please? I was given one photograph of Walter Matthau. So Walter Matthau had to walk sideways across the screen. You know, I remember there was one comment in a magazine saying, why is Walter Matthau looking out at the screen walking sideways? Because that was the only fucking photo I had. You know, or sometimes you weren't even given reference. Things like, well, Platoon. I've told this tale many times, so I'll encapsulate it. I remember walking out of the private screening in Selma, they sent me down to London on my own, go and see Platoon, Simon, this film, Simon, never heard of it, and design a game around it. And I walked out, just baffled. How am I going to turn this bloodbath that children won't be allowed to see into a game for children? Yeah, and then I get back, come up with some ideas, they go along with that. Oh yeah, I mean there's another example of how fucking stupid and how dumb they were. Oh, so we've had Frankie, we've had Platoon, and then Colin Stokes. About as intelligent as a fucking company cat. He says, I've come up with another wonderful idea. U2, the computer game, the Joshua Tree. And I remember sitting in David Ward's office with Colin Stokes on it, and he was just rambling. I thought, well, the drugs have kicked in early, so we have this tree, right? Don't stop me. You have this tree and bowling on the edge.
Joshua.
Yeah.
There you go. And I was just like, are you fucking stupid or what? Well, I mean, the kids bought Frankie, didn't they? But so they'll fucking buy anything. But that, at the time, Colin was only reiterating what John Wood said. I actually said to John Wood one time, and it ties in directly with your question, and you'll get there eventually. I said, would it not be better to put out fewer titles that take longer to develop than shitloads of titles that take like 2 or 3 months? And he said, nah. Shotgun method. And I said, well, what the fuck's that? And he said, with a big enough spray.
Shoot it up, shit up.
Yeah, and he said, one or two are bound to hit the balls on. And that was it, just throw enough shit out there. And some will sell in tens, some will sell in hundreds, and some will sell in thousands. They didn't give a fuck. At the end of the day, the quality control was done downstairs by us and Gary. The number of times that Gary just said, no, can't have this, can't have that. Sometimes he was right, sometimes he was wrong, especially during the Super Nintendo days when you got everything. Wanted everything to fucking rotate in was it mode 7? Oh, can we not have it mode 7? It's a fucking title screen, just leave it alone. But John didn't get it down. It was just get it out there, sell it. And it was the likes of Steve, you with the music. I mean, loads of people would walk into John Dunn and say, that's fucking awful. You just ignore us because we were all just Philistines and it anyway, but I think we just said it was awful because we'd heard it 1,000 times. But it was only us downstairs, we were the monkeys, but we gave a damn about what we did. Upstairs didn't get flying fuck, as long as it made money. But yeah, development time was not something that was high on the list of priorities at Ocean. And every single day you were working against the clock. Every day.
You pretty much said most of it there, Simon. One thing I found I did a lot of actually, which was probably really idiotic of me, I actually did, especially with games like the Total Recall stuff, and Untouchables, and to a great, probably maybe sort of was the one I did the most work on. I did a shitload of extra content, and I kind of did all that in my own time, which actually looking back on it, I shouldn't have done that really, but I was still fairly young and kind of like wide-eyed and just wanted to sort of put stuff out there. It was the love of the craft for me really, but yeah, I do want to say the industry nowadays has kind of grown up massively. We don't do crunch anymore because you can't do it with creatives. You know, if you put the thumb down on someone and they've got this creative spirit, you're just going to burn them out. And I would imagine a lot of people back in those days burnt out, didn't even know they had. You know, just carried on and just trundled along, you know, sort of making stuff that without even really thinking about it. But yeah, back then it wasn't great really. There wasn't any respect for developers really from upper management, especially at Ocean. You're absolutely right, someone what you say about a lot of that stuff. It was all about that, wasn't it? Totally. But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't change my experience of it. I loved it. I thought it was brilliant. That's all I want to say about it anyway. So.
Do we all know what crunch is? Yeah, we're all aware of it. Yeah, I mean, I would say the longest I was ever given to develop a set of music for a game was about 12 weeks, about 3 months. But the nearer you got to Christmas, that went out the window, forget that. You were kind of maybe lucky at 4 or 5 weeks to come up with a complete set of music, just because of the sheer increase in volume of titles that they wanted out around that crucial time of the year. So yeah, from a musical point of view, obviously you don't get to do the Pink Floyd in the studio in 6 months and develop it from start to finish, and it's a great concept. And I think it's probably partly responsible, and feel free to disagree with me, that if you look at the kind of sheer volume of C64 games through the 80s certainly, and you listen to the music, that it resulted in music that wasn't that, what's the right word, relative to the game. So if someone sat you down in front of a C64 and said, right, blindfold on, I'm going to play you a piece of music, describe the game to me. Let's be honest, probably with a great percentage you go, I haven't got a clue what that game's about. Or you'd go, shoot 'em up, shoot 'em up, shoot 'em up, shoot 'em up. So I think one of the things I've tried to do, certainly within a couple of the later titles with Ocean, was actually go and talk, go and look at screens, and go and talk to coders and programmers, and try and get some sort of storyboard in my head. And then go and write some music, and hopefully something that was kind of relative to the content of the game. That very absolutely naive attempt, having watched many films and understanding how the music is at least a 50% contribution to the experience that you're getting. You think of you can go to a number of movie scenes, take the music away and watch it, and it's nothing. And it's literally only once that emotion is in there as well, that suddenly it's like, whoa, you get that full experience. So I think probably some of that was lacking in all departments, the ability to be able to kind of work to the extent that you would want to work. And I concur with Steve. I mean, lots and lots of the music was once I gone home at night, and I didn't have my relaxed playing with, and kind of then developing the work I was involved with. So yeah.
You'd have to love it to do it.
Table's turned, right. Question for the audience.
Yeah.
And I'm going to pick people out at random. Okay?
Run now, run now.
Right, you, the Commodore, White Commodore, what did Ocean Software mean to you?
Some of my favourite games, probably. I was a Commodore 16 owner originally.
Wow.
Yeah, I know, exactly. My parents, I think they thought they were buying Commodore 16 and came out with a 16. But then I got a Spectrum, and that's really when I started to really, love games. So obviously all of the movie and arcade conversions. But I suppose RoboCop was probably one of my favourite games.
I mean, there's some faces that suggest that, yeah, you were around at the time and you were school kids at the time. And there's one of Faith. Well, are you old enough to remember Ocean back in the day, or did you come to Ocean like late in life and sort of it's like revisiting the old masters of the V&A. So, I must go and see Rembrandt.
Steady.
Yeah.
I just about, I'm a little bit younger maybe, and I do remember we had a Commodore 64, and I remember we had the Batman game cartridge. I think you guys summed it up with Ocean for me, and what I do now, writing about games and things, is throwing off shit at the wall, and a few gems will come out and stick on the board. I think that's my Ocean.
Right, well...
No disrespect to you guys, but
I deserve all the disrespect. I worked at one of the worst, some of the worst fucking companies in the world, Canvas and Frames. Oh no, Frames were okay. Canvas, fucking Miami Vice and It's a Knockout stuff. I don't know what we've done to Ocean to deserve their hatred. I know that in the end the work dried up. Let's see, who else was? Mr. Southworth. Ocean. I mean, did you hold them in any sort of position of respect?
Back in the day, or not?
Yeah?
Back in the day. although it's one of many companies out there, it's one that stood out because, as you rightly said, it was pretty much ubiquitous and a machine. I was a little bit too young. In fact, I've often said if I'd have been born a couple of years earlier, I'd probably end up working there. Because it was the music for me, and Ocean Load of 4, the music on Ocean Load of 4, when I was growing up, that's one that stuck in my mind. You get into bands, and the Mega Drive comes out, you forget about the Commodore for a bit, and then you pick up a guitar and you start playing that, and oh, that's that music of that, and it comes back, and you see all the remixes and stuff. And then, was it 10 years ago? I met you over in that gaff in by the road here.
Yeah.
And I gave my ring you lot and I wanted to know more about it, and it's grew from there. So my love of Ocean is more recent times of the people rather than the games itself. I like the games back in the day, but it's all about the people and the products. And you say it's not Hogwarts, but that's magic on the screen there.
Yeah, well, I mean, I hope nobody thinks that I'm an Ocean hater, because I'm definitely not. I've gone on record as saying that, I mean, I'd actually left the industry. I was so dispirited with the fucking awful company I was working with Ian Weatherburn. I mean, they were prepared to put out any old garbage that I resigned, and I had no idea what I was going to do, and I just walked out. No acrimony, I just said, no, sorry guys, today's my last day, I'm off. I'd finished all the work today's, didn't know anything,
That's what I did.
and moved on. But for some reason, Gary phoned me up the next day and said, come into Manchester, let's have a talk. And I went in and basically started that day. And the rest, as they say, is history, and here I am 40 years later. Still doing the same old pixelated nonsense. I've never gone into polygons. Currently working on the Spectrum Next. But no, Ocean do deserve a place in the pantheon of gaming companies. They do deserve to be held in high regard. But those that started it were not responsible for the magic that seems to have entranced all the schoolboys and girls buried within this group here and beyond. It was people like Paul, Peter, sorry. I'm thinking Peter, Paul and Mary for some strange reason. Showing the age. Steve, Paul Hughes, Colin Porch, Gary Bracey, and a host of others. And I'm not going to sit here and list them all, because I actually could. I think these people more than anyone have buried themselves in my gaming DNA, and as much as the vast majority of them annoyed the living fuck out of me on an hourly basis, to the point where I could literally have just like waterboarded all of them and not thought twice about it. And there are some that I hope I never see ever again. Truly loathe them. But the ones that remain in my memory forever are the ones that deserve to be there. People like Steve. I mean, I was ashamed to be in the same building as him, because like he churned out, and then I looked at my pixels and I thought, time to go home. But Ocean deserves to be held in high regard. But like I say, it's due to the people inside it, and most of all, it's due to Gary Bracey. And sadly, I wish he could have been here today.
Yeah, I'll put a little bit of extra on that. I think Ocean kind of was transient in the force that it was in the industry. I think when it first came into being, and those first few titles that came out, it made a real impact on people versus what had existed before. And we can all, I'm sure, lots of us can think back to those early 1983, 1982, you know, the building was still in, it was really rudimentary sprites, and if you were lucky musically, you got one synth voice playing some awful rendition of a piece of classical music. And that kind of thing. And then I think Ocean came along, you know, and things like David Thompson did and other stuff, and it went wallop, and everybody went, wow, look at that, that's amazing. That's almost exactly the same as that other game in the arcade, that Hyper Olympics. It's so good. And I think Ocean did that probably for a good 3, 4, 5 years then. They absolutely had massive impact, and people were influenced by it, along with others. I'm not going to separate them out from Houston and Gremlin, but they certainly kind of arrived, and they arrived with a massive bang. I'm going to tell a naughty little story because I think this book was told a lot of them. So when I actually met up with Martin Bell last year, he was in Manchester to kind of sort out stuff. His dad had died recently, so we just sort the house out and other stuff before going back to Houston. And he just kind of contacted me at the Blue and said, do you want to get a coffee? He said, I'll drive up to Blackburn. He said, we could just get together, and this was this epic meeting. And at one point we got to the subject of Bubble Bobble, and he asked me the question directly that, have I used his music right? His music right to do music for Bubble Bobble. I purposely waited till he had a full mouthful of hot chocolate and said, of course I do. But we kind of came to the conclusion. It's 37 years ago, and the only time I was swearing this Q&A, nobody really gives a fuck about. So there are kind of aspects of the history that don't matter, incidental details. And then there are other things that do matter. And one of the biggest things that does matter is the fact that there's kind of still this warmth and love. And there's out there, there's still a Commodore 64 game scene where games are being released even as we speak. Yeah, there's a Commodore 64 remix scene where people, myself included, are taking SID tunes and turning them into CD album commercial worthy tracks. And then you've got the C64 demo scene, which is probably the biggest of the three. And in the last 4 or 5 years, I've met so many lovely guys from the demo scene. We're going to chat online with Hermski and Poland, Hungary, all over. So it's, believe me, it's still alive, it's still kicking, it's still thriving. Yeah, it's shrinking from the oldest, and obviously people are becoming, they're very politely calling it old school. But obviously guys have done enough. And so what's quite important is it also pulling in kids at the bottom. You know, we need loading all of those three kind of areas to let the love continue into the future. But yeah, but that's my 2 pence.
Yeah, I've got much to add, to be honest with you. So, you guys said it all. Yeah, I just to echo what Pete said. I mean, the demo scene stuff is just mind-blowing. Like the things that people do nowadays on a machine that's, oh my God, how many years old now? 40, 50 years old, 40 years old, 40 years old. It just blows my mind how someone can squeeze every single possible last ounce of performance out of something and produce what they produce is just yeah, amazing. Really cool.
So it's up for an hour, so anything you want to ask. Shoot.
Right. Do you think at the time there was a hardware limitation? Did that hamper creativity or bolster it? And now, given that there's no limitation at all, what's the future like?
I'll add one quick aspect and then I'll speak to these certainly more expert people in that department. I think what was involved at the time in the 80s certainly, where you had commercial games versus demos that were even at that point ahead of the curve with games, was the caution that when you developed a commercial product, you worked on everything. And so maybe, oh, we could do that. No, just wind it back, guys. Let's make sure we've got a, we don't want to recall 100% working.
I actually love limitations when I'm working. I think that's really what drives the most creativity. Not having, you know, all of the toys in the box. Like Unreal Engine nowadays, you do everything now. And yes, you know, the games may be amazing, but they look soulless as well. There's something about crafting something and pushing a machine. I think the one relevant title that's out at the moment is Tears of the Kingdom. Like they have pushed, I mean that is not a powerful machine compared to the other consoles, but the stuff they're doing on that is absolutely mind-blowing. That's the stuff I love. I love doing that. I'm a VFX artist because visual effects stuff is always very expensive, and if you can do something that people go, oh, how on earth did you do that? That's what that gives me a buzz. It really does. That's the thing that I love more than anything, really. I think that's probably my biggest driver, is being able to produce something that people can't, well, how on earth did you do that kind of thing? And I love that aspect of the job, and I always have done as well. Used to do a lot of, on the C64, colour mixing, which I know a lot of demo people use now, like horizontal lines, you can get extra colours, and that was just me playing around for hours and hours, just like really trying to understand absolutely everything and squeezing every ounce of what you could possibly do out of the machine, sort of thing. So yeah, creativity, limitations definitely fuel creativity, I would say, definitely.
I've never really moved out of the excuse me, the limitations. Being a 2D artist, I went, oh, Jesus, my career actually went backwards as I moved into the mobile phone world, and so I really had limitations. I was getting down to 2 colours on screen, and the resolutions were getting smaller and smaller and smaller. So working on games like there's a PC game called Anno. It's like I don't know, world building trading game. Wonderful high-res graphics, and we had on a mobile phone, and then we had to reduce the graphics down and down and down until it's like 4 pixels square. So yeah, you do have to think outside the box. I mean, I'm currently doing that now, even though it's the ZX Spectrum, which is kind of connected to the whole Commodore thing, because people do like to level the criticism that it's nothing but a glorified Amiga. The games that I'm working on at the moment, they're all limitations. I have tile sets to work within, colour sets, a certain amount of colour sets to do a certain amount of tile sets, and sizes for the sprites, and animation frame limits, so you try and get as much character and charm in a 16 by 16 6 frame walk. So I've never left it, and I would dread moving into something where somebody said, oh, sky's the limit, go for it, and you just go. Because once you do that, then you don't know when to put the brakes on. You just don't, so you just get, oh, I'll make the sprite bigger. I was currently working on a project for a company in Bavaria, and the sprites were 180 by 180. And every time I did something, the lead coder said, that's great, can you put some more frames in? Which is a nightmare to do, to try and add frames in, because between frame 1 and frame 2, you've already done what you think is the best transition, and he wants something slaughtered in between.
There's a limit to that as well, where it loses its charm.
Yeah, it just becomes too slow, and you end up with fucking Bugsy. So I love limitations, and for 40 years that's pretty much all I've done, and so hopefully at least for another 10, maybe another 20. I mean, I'm pushing 70 now, so let's just see how it goes. But yeah, limitations. But seeing as the time is pretty much up, I'd just like to say I haven't pissed on anyone's chips today. And they're in their understanding of motion software, but you have to know warts and all. You have to know what went on behind the curtain. We were the guys that did the magic, the guys at the top. They're not even worth thinking about. So hold on to your dreams of motion. And please, I hope I haven't pissed on your chips. Okay?
It will work if you hold the button down long enough.
All right.
Just press the button.
Got you.